Hi, I'm Bill Patton with the. Hi, I'm Bill Patton, Infinite Vision Coach, the author of The Art of Coaching High School Tennis, and I'm with Dave Smith, who is the author of High School Tennis. Wait,
Coaching.
High
High
School
coaching.
Tennis Coaching Mastery. High School Tennis Coaching Mastery. How are you doing today, Dave?
I am great. It's almost snowing here, so this is perfect.
Okay, awesome. No, what a beautiful place you live at. I've had the pleasure of staying at your place, and it was just absolutely an amazing experience. So, thanks for that. So, one thing I'm fond of calling your book the college textbook of coaching high school, and um, you know, I'm happy. I think it's really fun that we've each produced books that kind of cover different parts of coaching to the point where it's not like there's a significant amount of overlap in the structure and the format,
Oh yeah, we,
but
we both have unique aspects that are unique to our books and unique to coaching. But the nice thing is, both our books bring together an opportunity for people to go, "Oh, this other book really adds to what that book says or what that coach says," which I love. We
yeah,
learn
that
from so many people and
yeah,
individuals.
no, that's really cool too, especially because I don't think I could make a book like yours. I tried and I failed, so I had to make it my own way.
Your
So, all
book,
right, so
awesome.
now.
Don't even go there, Bill. There's stuff after reading your book. I'm going, why didn't I think of that?
Oh yeah, see, that's nice. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. So, now what we're going to do right here is introduce the course because we're just going to kind of fly at 30,000 feet because what's coming is a building of a course that will be 5-10 minute videos, and once we get done with that and it's fully edited, we're going to be releasing that out. So if you're watching us live, you get to kind of see the very first step towards creating the course and hearing the first discussions and getting the big picture. So what we're going to do, this conversation is going to be very linear in that we're going to try to go through the timeline without backing up. All right, and just kind of lay down some foundational pieces of what comes first. All right, so what are the first things that come up in your book that you're going to talk about how to prepare for a season?
Well, I think even putting that horse before the cart, I would say that a new coach or a new pro in a program, new college coach, you're looking first and foremost to build your program, build the culture of your program, and attract players to your program. I cannot, we've talked about this many times, but some of my best players were some of the lowest kids initially on my lab. So I've always been a proponent of getting as many kids because you never know which kid's going to mature, which kid's going to blossom, which kid's going to become passionate. And so in high school coaching mastery, I talk a lot about the ways that a coach first and foremost wants to build that program up in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
So I would say the first thing is brand your program. Brand it meaning sell it to your community, sell it to your school, sell it to your tennis, immediate tennis community, as well as outside your social media program and whatnot. So that would be my first thought.
Yeah. Well, and to piggyback off of that, mine's more has more of a philosophical storyteller thing to it. So, from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says, begin with the end in mind.
Yes.
So what mine does is kind of lays down a foundation of how do you want to be remembered when this is all done? Um, is Are you building a program that's a conduit for teaching excellence and life skills that help people cope in life after they're done playing high school tennis? Because such a small percentage will go on to play college. and an even smaller percentage than that. It's almost infinitesimally small, the number of former high school players who go on to play professional tennis.
Right.
But there are a handful. I mean, Jack Sock and Andy Roddick and Marty Fish played high school
Stevie
tennis.
Johnson.
And a few, Stevie Johnson. So that it is conceivable, but it's not promoted. But the point here being, when you're getting started, like for instance, one example would be, how do you create your selection criteria? Right. I mean, not everybody can be a no-cut coach because of the court facility situation they have, or even, the policies of the school or what have you. So, and even if you're a no-cut coach, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be some square pegs that just don't fit with the program that might need to be asked to leave.
Yep. No, I agree. I mean, it's rare. I mean, I've coached for 42 years. I've never had to cut a player. I've never had to kick a kid off a team. I would say that is because I've done it for so long, and I know how to prohibit the things that lead to a need to kick a kid off a team or cut a kid off a team. But that's a whole nother story. I would say, for the most part, you've got to have an objective mechanism in which you are going to maintain your team roster or your ladder. And obviously a team ladder is a very objective way, because you either win or lose the challenges. But sometimes that can be, I would never use a ladder to dictate who I cut. If I had to cut, I would not use a ladder, because the coaches over the years, here comes a kid, a freshman, never played tennis, taking lessons, but he's going to lose initially to the pusher and the hacker that's been playing on the team for a year or two. And I've seen kids start off as a freshman that had initially no skill set, but perceivably did not look great.
Right.
Top ranked state champions. I kid you not, that has happened many times.
Well, okay, and so we're going to wrap this section up here, but just to kind of conclude with what you're saying, you have to have the foresight to see potential problems and create opportunities for people that might not get the opportunity in a purely outcome-based criteria setting. All right. I think the final thought on that is that if you put the time in thinking ahead and studying how to lay out your season, then you're going to meet with a lot more success than if you just kind of ride from the seat of your pants there. All right. Absolutely. So now, as you're getting started, what are some of the principles that come into play? It's the day before practice. Practice is beginning. And what are the things that people need to know?
Well, for me, the first thing is communication. I have parent handouts, player handouts that do fine. Again, this is part of that proactive way of preventing problems. The
we lost him. He's back. Okay. Yeah. We're okay.
The big issue is, if you communicate your expectations, communicate the rules, the ramifications, the what happens if you do this is what's going to happen.
Yes, this is good. All right, so let's come back up to 30,000 feet, because it's really easy for both of us to want to go down into the weeds and get into the details early. All right, so for me, I like to have a schedule that is down to the minute for the first 3 days of practice. And then the funny thing is having a plan. I will have the entire season planned out in a rough sketch of, this is going to happen on this day, because I get out my schedule and I say, all right, we have matches on these days. Practice the day before the match needs to look like this. So that leaves us this many days to work on certain things that aren't the day right before a match, blah, blah, blah. And so taking kind of the whole plan and then realizing, oh, wait a minute, I've planned in a lot of lob, a lot of lob practice, but no overhead practice, you know. So how do then now I have to go back and balance it out and or say, okay, wait a minute, the season's sitting in a really funny way this year, so I have to jettison a couple of things. So just planning the whole thing out, but then the first 3 days are very detailed to the minute so that even if I'm running behind, I know that I can on the fly kind of cut some things out and save some time.
Yeah, I mean, you can never be overly organized at all. And especially new coaches need to really even write out their lesson plan, so to speak, down to the minute, down to the program order, the linear order of your program. What are you going to do for the first 10 minutes? What are you going to do team-wise? How are you going to run ladders? How are you going to do drills? And obviously, you're going to want to look at things. Your advanced players are going to need certain drills that are a little bit different than your beginners. We teach an advanced foundation, but so our beginners are learning what the advanced players are doing. However, the drills are going to differ.
Yes.
So,
okay. Moving on. So I want to keep this thing moving because right now, as it stands, it's going to be 20 minutes long, and I'm hoping to keep it closer to shorter than that. Anyway, so now you got a couple of days under your belt, and it's time to really start training. And so I would say definitely you want to get a lot of your anaerobic quickness, explosive movement drills done out of the way. Get the kids trained for the rest of the season. That's a mistake that coaches make is I think they teach too much and they don't train the athlete enough. And then at the end of the season, then you don't maybe they're technically better, but they don't have the wheels to really play really well at the end.
Our drills are very succinct and they incorporate high footwork. There's different drills for different things, but you can actually build in without just running sprints, doing blood and guts, doing whatever. You can do drills. We do a lot of drills where kids are hitting thousands of balls a day and a lot of footwork. So don't forget that you can incorporate footwork without spending half your time doing aerobic leg work without any hitting component, because that's all they have to go together. They really do have to go together.
And this is where I think being able to see because I think we're in this regard, I think we're on different extremes.
Yeah.
So look at what Dave does, and it's obviously worked famously for him. And then look at what I do, and it's worked pretty darn well for me. And then you'll find your way somewhere in the middle of those. But or maybe you just decide, okay, I'm going to go with Dave. It doesn't bother me. But you have a range of things that you're going to be able to look at in terms of the philosophy of how to train them physically. All right. So now you're getting into the meat of the matches, and the kids are starting to learn more about how to play and win a match. So what are some of the principles that we get into there?
Well, mentally, we challenge our players, like you said at the very beginning. The end, we always tell our players, our goal is to win state. Absolutely win state. So everything is predicated on that goal. So the drills, the structure of our practice is really to focus on getting our kids mentally, physically, and structurally ready to play the best players in Utah. So it took me 2 years when I took over this program to do that. And we in 2 years went from a team that hadn't won a region in 6 years to the best team in Utah, in the entire state. And that was a picture of those drills that we talked about, of the footwork patterns you talked about, and the competition element. So challenges, team challenges, we do a gold and black and gold challenge. I mean, just things that allow you to learn how to compete and learn how to win when sometimes your back is against the wall.
Yes. And one thing I do as we get into more of the meat of starting to play some preseason matches, is we have the four goals, and the course is going to flesh those out. But my program always has the same four goals. Number one, give 100% effort. Number two, enjoy the competition. Number three, show yourself strong and wise. And number four, learn from every instance. And so then what we do is we apply those to the early matches to find out where are the breakdowns. Like I think one of the most common ones is people go and they play a match and they just really dislike their opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So then they let that not allow them to have fun playing.
Right.
So then we learn we learn some things about how to overcome the issues early on that will happen at the beginning of every year again, because some of these kids aren't playing year round. So getting and playing that first match of the season is Nervesville. So we have to get them out of Nervousville and on down the road, ready to be in mid-season form. So, all right, now when it comes to preparing for the big, well, I shouldn't say that. Actually, one of my things is I don't call them big matches, right? But there are matches that determine the outcomes of your season. So they're important, but how do you start preparing the kids? What are some of the things that go into preparing them for the biggest competitions? You already kind of alluded to it a little bit.
Well, you've got to mentally prepare them through some of the drills that you do. So not only a drill, for example, forehand to forehand or backhand to backhand volley, we have to hit 200 in a row or they have to start over. You want pressure? Go get to 175 and miss. And know you have to start over. So something when I was in college, we had to do 300 in a row without missing. And the mental pressure that simulated was about as distinctively pressure-packed when you're hitting that volley and you start letting your mind wander, especially when you get to around 100, 120 in a row of anything. I don't care if it's bounces with your racket hitting the ball straight up, and it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Get to 100 or 150, your arm starts to get a little fatigued. Your mind starts to wander, and that's what we're training these kids not to let happen. So objectively, like you talked about, if you're letting your emotions control your match, that's a subjective match. You're not going to play your best tennis ever when you're emotionally engaged and not liking the player. Oh, I should beat him. I should kill this player. Oh, he's awesome. I should lose to those right. Are objective ways. So objectively, we focus drills to bring their mind into.
Right. And you have a ton of drills, right? Whereas mine has a handful, because, when I wrote my book, I was like, wait a minute, there are already a bunch of really great books with a bunch of drills in there. So why would I reproduce that? But I have a couple of handful of them, so you don't have to go without. But I think the principle being overtraining. And so one thing that John Wooden, one of the most influential sports coaches of all time, was a big fan of, was making practice more difficult than any competition would be. So then it seems easy in comparison, right? So I also do this. So I use a lot of drills that are really high speed of shots,
right,
or intense amounts of movement, and or really demanding with where the placement of the shot needs to be. And then also with like a little bit of fear of maybe getting hit by the ball. Because once you've been hit by the ball 10 times already in the season, then going to play the opponent isn't going to be as scary. So the wrap on that is the overtraining is what prepares them to actually play the game and have it not seem as difficult. So now you're building up to the denouement, the biggest moments. The championships are on the line, and what are some of the building blocks that you have, that besides what we've already mentioned, right, that help establish that the mindset of being a champion?
One of the things I talk to my players about is they should be nervous, but they shouldn't be in fear. Nervous means it's an important match. I want them to feel some nerves. But as you just alluded to, over practicing or preparing means you're going into the match knowing you have prepared. That is huge. In fact, there's a picture of me. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, looking really stressed out. Yeah.
That's
poor Dave, man.
He's there. Gosh, I can't figure out.
Dave's about to have an aneurysm there.
I am like this.
Yeah.
At a very important match, and one of my parents actually took that picture because it was a stressful match, and I tried to portray myself as relaxed and confident. I've seen coaches who are like, okay, we gotta, you gotta do this, yeah. And so
grasping yeah.
And my kids respond to that, and I walk out, and I'll say something like, "Gosh, your shoes are awesome. I love your hair today." If it's
yeah.
And they relax, and so even though they are well prepared, I need them relaxed.
Yes. Well, and one thing I like to do is just say, hey, look, we take the same approach to every match, right?
Any different.
So we give, this is why we establish early, 100% effort, enjoy the competition, show yourself strong and wise, and learn from every match. And we do that every time. And if it starts to break down at any point in the season, then we really talk about it and work that out. Because I want it to just be automatic when they go out to play, a playoff match. But then the other thing too is then when we talk about excitement, because if you say I'm nervous, that feels one way. But if you say I'm excited, it's the same thing, but you just framed it a little bit differently. So I think the principle there is framing the mentality. And I think one thing that you could have included is the way that you put the names of all the winners and the plaques and all that up on the fence, so that there's this daily reminder of how much winning has happened in your program in the past. And so it's a daily reminder to your players that they can have an expectation of really good success. So all right, now
let me touch on that, because it goes back to the beginning of what we do at the season. When I was first hired after almost 20 years off from high school coaching, after my success in California and Arizona, the school I took over, I raised money through different means, and we bought banners to do what you just talked about. We highlighted all of our region champions, our state championships, and individual region and state individual champions. So all of our players saw names up there, either were still on the team or had graduated, but they now said to themselves, I want to see my name up there. It's a permanent record. It's like a trophy case, if you will, which says you are famous in a way. The other thing is, schools who come to play us, those banners are right in front of our bleachers, right in front of their faces, and they are looking up as we're doing introductions and talking about everything. They're looking at our success. And coaches and opponents see that success and feel they have to perform sometimes at a much higher level than they really need to. And they lose because they're playing at a level they can't perform at. And the intimidation factor carries a lot of weight. We don't have to say anything. It's right there. So coaches, if you've had some success, portray it in some way that is visible to your kids. And our ladder is the same way. So our tennis ladder has all of our individual state and region champions. And again, we want that to be very apparent, so that when they're looking at their name on the ladder, they're also seeing what their goal is. Hopefully they want to be a champion as well.
Yes. Well, and I've played against teams that have a shirt that has a listing of all of their championships on it, and it is a little intimidating. But I'm actually all the way on the other side because I'm kind of lazy and cheap when it comes to that stuff. So I don't want to spend the money. I don't want to do the work. But so I take a different approach where it's just like we're always assuming the underdog role. So it both things can work if for you. If you go that way, it can really be intimidating. But if you always take sort of the humble underdog, you know, no matter what, even if you're favored, you still can assume an underdog role. You can do something to build up the opponent to make them seem more dangerous.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
there's
yeah,
a lot of psychological
yeah,
avenues you can approach that from. Because I tell my kids from day one, you will be the champions. You will be a region title champion. I have no doubt in my mind you will be. And when you create that sincere belief, and they create that sincere belief, they now. One of the things I learned over the years is you have to visualize yourself at where you want to be. And if
hmm
you visualize yourself as an underdog, well, maybe you might end up being the underdog in every match. It may pay off, but I prefer to go the other route and say,
right,
we are the best team and we will perform at that level because that's how we see ourselves. So they
yeah.
both work. I'm not saying one way
Well,
doesn't work. It's just my way.
yeah. And to conclude this, I think part of the reason why that has worked for me is because I haven't been at one place long enough to create this,
See,
7 year, 10 year, legacy thing. I mean, I'm always coming in and we are honest to goodness the underdogs. But,
yeah,
I had a three consecutive seasons where my players beat two number twos and two number one seeds, and because we had to, we came in as a 10 seed in one with the girls and a 9 in the other,
right.
and then next year my guys were 3, but they had to beat 2 and 1 in the same day in 97-degree heat to win that, and so yeah, we were the
Yeah.
underdogs.
No,
But anyway,
there's a positive there. I don't discount at all.
yeah.
I think you need to balance that and see how it fits your personality as a coach and the personality as a team as well.
Oh, for sure. Yes, absolutely. All right. So this hopefully gives you a flavor of what the course is going to be about. This is by far the longest video that will be produced for it. But then what we're going to do, so each series of videos is going to be about the planning, the early execution, the getting ready to play matches, the building up of the players over throughout the season, and then into postseason and developing a champion attitude mindset. And I'm excited because the fun part is going to be the interchange. I mean, I think we overlap in a lot of ways, but where we don't, then there's a little more breadth to go with the depth. So anyway, thanks so much for coming on, Dave, and I
Thank you.
look forward
Thank you
to
for
working with
coming
you
on,
on this.
listening to us share these little stories, and we'll be more concise in giving you some cool things that I think will really be applicable for you immediately.
All right, very good. So, and ready, go. All
Go
right.
where? We're done.
That okay. No, hold on. That was
Sorry.
me.